Yeah, my name is Tim Cutts, and at the start I did a lot of publicity, not related to the newsletter itself, but other types of publicity we needed. Again, no internet, no social media, so you had to work a bit harder. And the key was teamwork, really. I think we had a good crew that would actually take the the posters that were created and plaster them on telephone poles down Bank Street and down around the market, just to try to get more people out to our concerts. And it was, I think, pretty successful. As well, I was responsible to contact the various media, and so there's not that much media then in terms of who were willing to, receive this sort of information. So we went to the non-commercial angle. We went to CBC Radio, and they were quite receptive at the programs that are still running today. All in a Day, the afternoon show, and In Town Out, which was a Saturday program. And as well as that, we contacted the local newspaper, The Citizen, trying to get the attention of the editor or reporters that were writing articles there. So on a monthly basis, I would kind of assemble background material. We'd have the artist's photograph, for example, and then I would put together a cassette of maybe 2 or 3 tunes or songs from the artists that hopefully caught their attention. And if we were lucky, they would play it on the air, or write an article on in the newspaper. And we were probably lucky if we got 50% success rate with respect to that, because there was a lot of competition, and kind of depended almost on the person's personality you were dealing with at the time, because there were different reporters, different announcers, etc. And of course, the newspapers probably tended to promote more groups that were actually advertising in the newspaper, whereas we were just kind of hoping for some free advertising. But one thing we could do always was to count on CKC Radio Carleton, which was another thing that really kind of tied into the whole old sod and folk music groups in Ottawa. They had programs that were keyed in on the audiences that we would like to attract. There was Chopper McKinnon's Canadian Spaces, and Vince Finesse was running a program called Music from the Glen. And so we would kind of tie into those where we could. And musically, even Tony Day's program after Music from the Glen often tagged in some folk music transitions, so we often got a little bit more out of that as well. And then if the stars were aligned, we got the groups in time, etc. We could actually have a live short studio performance in CKCU. It was normally on Canadian Spaces and Chopper interviewing the person, and then having a bit of music and discussion. That was kind of something that we could put together if we had the groups here, ahead of time, and most of them were pretty willing to do that. Later on, some of us became interested in the whole radio thing itself, and Music from the Glen became a program that had multiple hosts from the old Sod membership. So that would include Gord Peeling, Stuart Patch, Ivan Emke, myself, and it was a lot of fun because it was kind of our pride in showing our own musical collections. Radio Carleton had a very limited selection of folk music, and so this enabled us all to kind of show our interests, but still being in the same vein. And then also, we could easily plug concerts that were coming up and things like that. So, and some of us continue, not me as in us, but Gord Peeling and Ivan still continue to do some radio work. The other thing was booking artists. I shared a stint with Ivan Emke in getting artists to come in, and kind of were exposed to the difficulty sometimes of working visas and smoothing border crossings for incoming musicians. And it wasn't always easy, just because all we had was a home phone, and if you're lucky, you had a fax in case the border said, well, we need this, we need that. So that was it was a challenge sometimes, and but it was helped a bit by the fact that there were certain agents that dealt with primarily folk musicians that we were interested in, like whether they're from Britain or Ireland. And so we got used to dealing with a specific number of them. And as such, we could get a heads up when there was a bunch of different musicians, and we could kind of nail down some spots down the road. And as well, some of the bigger names that we knew we couldn't really afford by ourselves, if in fact they already had a gig lined up in Toronto, then it was usually easier to persuade them to come here as well on route. So that was another bonus, I think. And it was interesting to speak to some of the musicians, because one of the common threads in the whole transportation thing was that many of them flew with these cheap flights through Delta Airlines, which all came through their main airport in Charlotte, I think it was, in the southern states. So they would often talk about crossing paths with other groups that they knew from the UK, where they, if they were in a rush, they had time to wave at each other, and otherwise they could have a coffee or a dinner, and then discuss where they've been, where they're going, and things like that. So that was kind of a fun little story that they passed on. The thing too was being part of the community. I think at this time there were so many wonderful musicians that it was not only the enjoyment from being part of the whole listening process, but actually having them stay at your house, and they were so down to earth, like it was just nice to see a different aspect of some of these folk gods that you listen to for so long, and just find out another angle, their personality, their interests other than music, etc., like that. So that was a lot of fun, and being exposed to new personalities. Other people would in other years were bringing in artists that you hadn't heard before, and I think, again, as Mark alluded to, I think that there was a lot of interest by people that got used to the quality of people that we were bringing in, and so they would be more inclined to come to a concert that they really didn't even know the person, but were prepared to be wowed, and in many cases that came to be. Also, just to close here, I mean, that the poster you're seeing there of Phil Cunningham just reminded me of many times we got to sit down with the musicians afterwards, and in this particular case, I think Phil Cunningham had a bunch of us just in stitches, and he's such a funny guy, and it just brings back some wonderful memories of being involved in the whole thing. So as I said, there were great memories and some lots of work, meeting new people, and I know Ivan has some more things to add to expand on his experience as a volunteer before he left us and moved on to Newfoundland for a career. So maybe Ivan, you want to take it away?